Welcome to our work meeting, our work session for January 10th, the Ocean Township Board of Education. Before we begin, I'd like to read a focus statement that I hope to read for many of our meetings so that we realize our responsibilities. The Ocean Township Board of Ed will maintain their role as a policymaking body and strive to work in a cohesive manner to support initiatives that are in the best interest of the district, students, and staff. That will be our focus. With that in mind, I'd like to just, since we're starting out new for the year, review a few policies, including cell phone use by our board members. I know that all of us have families and we all need to get in touch with our families. I just reference a case for the New Jersey school boards where the public noted a board member texting and thought it might be with a parent violating the Open Public Meeting Act, and this parent sued the district. So I would ask that you limit your cell phone use, and if there's a parent that reaches out to you with a question or concern, we have 2 public sessions, and you could please refer them to those public sessions. The other thing is email. Please be cautious and cognizant of emailing. You are not to have a quorum, which is 5 people. So even if it's informational, please limit your emails. And any meetings outside of our board, you are to notify the board according to our policy so that we don't violate any open public meeting sessions. Our committee reports. We discussed briefly upstairs in the interest of time, especially during the budgetary meetings, and the fact that the public has access to the agenda, that instead of reading each report, for example, the financial report, 8.1 to 8.5, unless there's a presentation. If there's a PowerPoint or a presentation that everybody needs to go through, then we certainly will read through those. But otherwise, after our discussion saying, I move that 8.1 to 8.5 be voted upon or whatever, if it's for discussion, we discuss it. And I think that will be helpful, especially during budgetary season. Now, I know that last time someone made the suggestion of changing locations for each meeting. And I think that would be very confusing to the public. So wait a second, it's January, we're meeting here, but in February, we're meeting there, and March, we're meeting here. I think that by providing these Zoom sessions, we are able to offer to all of the public in Ocean Township a means to join our meeting. And I would encourage everybody to please do that. Our questions for debate. Our questions, and this is a reminder from the New Jersey school boards for a webinar that I attended. Our questions that we present should not be managerial of the district. Our responsibility is to provide oversight, not to micromanage the details of the district. And actually, we all signed these ethics forms, and actually C said, I will confine my board actions to policymaking, planning, and appraisal. I will help frame policies and plans only after the board has consulted those who will be affected by them. And finally, I will carry out my responsibility not to administer the schools, but together with my fellow board members to see that they are well run. So that's our responsibility too. And finally, and then I'll go through the agenda, I would like to express a huge thank you to Senator Vin Gopal for helping, along with other legislators, to secure the stabilization aid to the tune of $1.27 million for the Ocean Township School District. Our business administrator is going to talk about the allocation of those funds, but the loss of funding due to our decreasing enrollment was really presenting a problem to our district. And so by working with Senator Gopal and filling out the application for the stabilization, we were able to secure that funding, and it's going to go a long way toward helping our students and staff. So once again, thank you, Senator Gopal. And later on, Ms. Truba will discuss the specifics for what we plan to do with that money. And that's all I have. Yes, comment, Ms. McGovern.
I just had one thing that I wanted to bring to you and to the board about, since you're talking a little bit of procedure. Years ago, being veteran members, sometimes Denise can come up with some things that we used to do. And one of the things that we used to do is we used to have the vice president take notes. In the way we were doing it, I don't know that it was effective, but it used to be, you know, like if we said to what would now be Tina, like, can you find this out for us, whatever, you know, like she would keep track of it and report on it the next time. But that's not so much what I'm thinking, but more when people ask for things to be added to the agenda, if that can be kept track of by our vice president to, you know, you're running the meeting, it's hard as president to write things down, to maybe just jot down, you know, Shawanda asked for this to be added to the agenda. Can we, you know, to when you get ready to do the meeting, maybe the two of you can discuss it during the week for deciding what agendas to put them on.
I don't know. In the past,
yeah, as everybody,
and it worked. Anybody have any issue with that? If not,
I'm trying.
You got yourself a new responsibility there, Ms. Tortorello. So that's our thing. Yes, Mr. Clayton.
Thank you, President Gilman. I just want to make a comment based off what you were thanking our legislative partners for their help, particularly Senator Powell. I know I've often heard, you know, politics says it doesn't have a place in the school district, and it doesn't. But I know when I view my role, and I think we all have the best interest of the students in mind, is to advocate for the students and the parents and the taxpayers.
Absolutely.
And with legislative leaders. And when I got on board in 2015, you know, our state senator was of a different political party than we have now. But we worked with her to be able to, you know, advance the district. And I believe that we should continue to work with all parties, you know, in order to best advance the needs of our districts and, you know, and be able to come up with, you know, financial solutions.
That's what we need, financial solutions, and he's been quite helpful. Thank you, Mr. Clayton. So yes.
Just to clarify, the stabilization aid is one time or yearly? One time.
For this year. But it should the application come up.
If it comes up again, I'll apply.
We apply again.
Yep, understood. So it's not in addition to our budget?
No.
Okay.
No.
Thank you.
And that's why they recommend to use it for one time.
One time.
Yes.
Awesome.
Yes, Mr. Clayton.
And that would be to Tina. I know I saw someone asked about are there restrictions on how to be spent.
Yes, she's going to present that.
Okay.
I think I put it.
Yes, she's going to have a PowerPoint. Thank you. All right. So yes.
Can you, maybe because my volume was up, I apologize for that. Can you just read over the sentence you had about meetings and policy? You and I had talked about this, so I just didn't know what the definition of meetings are. And so maybe I missed it in what you said. So
meetings and policy.
When you said we have to notify people of meetings, like.
So should you decide to meet with Ms. Parlamas outside of the confines of our board meeting, and then you discuss board business with whomever, you violate the Open Public Meeting Act. But if you were to announce that you're having a meeting and should other board members want to attend, that's the correct procedure.
Procedure isn't necessarily policy though. So is there a policy?
Well, we do have a policy against.
What number is that?
Hold on, we have a policy against 5 people meeting and having a meeting. But if Mrs. Parlamas and I were going out and if me, Mr. Parlamas and Grace Ann were going out for coffee and we were talking about specifically about planning and construction, that's one thing. That's a planning and construction meeting.
Right.
If the 3 of us were going out for coffee to try and mend fences in the world, and I'm sorry to say like the 3 of us, then that doesn't constitute a meeting or something that has to be told. I think if you're discussing, that's the way we've always
served, or maybe we serve on another organization together.
Yeah,
right.
Say that again, Ms. Parlamas.
I'm sorry. If we're serving on another organization together, we don't necessarily have to.
Of course,
you. It just is specific if we're
specific to the board.
To the board.
Okay. Yeah, right. If we are meeting with the intent of
discussing board business. Correct.
Yeah, okay, that I understand. But what policy number? I'm sorry. Is this in?
0169.
0169.
I have that written down, 0169, but I will check that again.
Okay.
All right, so let's move to our agenda. And let's see, I gave my report. Superintendent is next.
All right. So just tonight, I want to ask the board in terms of interest. We at Wayside on January 27th, I believe it's 2 p.m. They have their annual Shark Tank competition. They're looking for, their words, one board member to be a judge that day. So I'm putting it out to the whole board. If you are interested in being a judge for that, please email me, and what we'll do if we have multi, I don't know, we'll put a name in a hat and pull it out. I'm not sure how we'll figure it out, but if you want to be a judge for the Shark Tank, this is the Shark Tank competition. This is sort of a precursor for the steam tank thing they do. It's, I believe, the 27th of this month at 2 p.m. at Wayside Elementary School. So if you could please email me if you're interested in being a judge, then we'll, once again, I know they're asking for one person. I know that probably many would like to do it, but we'll make a determination in some fair way. I don't yet to be determined. You might have something to see who wants to do that. Right? So
maybe attend.
Certainly, we can put it out there for people to attend if they'd like to attend. Sure.
Yeah,
absolutely. All right. That's all I have.
Thank you, Ms. Truba.
Yeah, Mary Ann, if you could pull up the presentation or the one pager on the stabilization aid.
The money.
Okay, so what I did, this is the budget calendar, and I just want to let everybody know that we are meeting and have met with all of the principals, the assistant superintendent of special services. And this week I will be meeting with John Bosman on all facilities and capital requests, and Mike Hall on all of the requests that came in from an IT perspective. I am shooting for the week of the 24th to start presenting certain key line items of the budget, such as capital requests and IT requests. We're right on target where we said we would need to be. There are some assumptions that we're still waiting to receive, which are pretty large components of the budget, which is potential increase in healthcare costs for 2024. So January of 2024, which is the back end of our fiscal year, as well as all of our insurances, such as workers' compensation, cybersecurity risks, student activity. So I'm hoping to have all of that by the end of this month, so that really in February, we could have some significant budget conversations.
Right.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
If you look at stabilization aid, that should be the next slide. Okay, so I just wanted to take everybody through stabilization aid history. So back in October, it was announced that there was going to be another round of stabilization aid. This was going to be the second year that it was available for districts to put in for a grant application. We did not participate last year, but this year we did. We did ask for, $2.4 million of asks, and we were approved from the DOE for $1.269 million. We didn't communicate this back in December because we were still waiting to hear from the state and the county office how the allotment came to us based on our asks. And we received that early this month. So esports, we're going to be able to fund that program. We wanted to do that. Wow. So there's going to be an esports program, which is funded at $100,000. That's going to be both in the intermediate and the high school. Ms. Weldon and I are meeting collectively with my organization, my IT organization, the education IT team, and facilities and the principals to determine what rooms we want, how we're going to build this out. And we're really going to take our time in doing this the right way, because this is something that's very exciting.
It is.
In addition to getting that money, we did have people who donated monies to us throughout the way. There's another like $5,000-6,000 that is going to help us with like furniture and really retrofitting things in the room. So I want to thank those donors, and we'll do that more publicly, I think, as we get closer to this and we could see what we could buy with the money. We got money, $364,000. We are upgrading every single switch in every elementary school. So this is a huge help to us, because typically what we do is we do a certain amount of switches a year. This is critical to us because the elementary school switches are at end of life and they can't take any more software upgrades. So the switches handle all your security, your cameras, all your activity within the schools. This is a major help for us. The next line item, of course, is something that's near and dear to us because we have to buy or lease buses every single year. This is going to help us buy 6 buses outright so that we don't have lease payments over the next 5 years. Great. So this is key. And I have to be honest, we looked, and to your point, Irene, because you thanked the DOE and also the senator and other legislators that have helped us. We were, Monmouth County received a lot of funding, and we received, I want to say, like one of the largest amounts. Yes, we did. Yep. So we did very well. I mean, look, I have to admit the application was written very well. But you know, I mean, it was looking back at 10 years of activity. So it's 10 years of financials. I mean, it really showed the story, John, what you were saying about the S2 decline. You know, they heard that loud and clear. This is a real help to us going forward. And if it happens next year, I will do the same thing next year and try to get us just as much money. The last thing has been something that has been on our radar screen, and we've been wanting to do it for 3 years, and that's upgrading the entire intercom system at the high school and the intermediate school. This is allowing us to do a lot of things that we cannot do today that the elementary schools can't, calling each other, you know, making sure that there's good communication between the schools. So we only received a 40% allocation because they did that for capital projects, but we're going through our local funds now, and between my team and IT and some of my budgets, I'm going to be able to move things around to be able to fund this. Absolutely. Because it's important. And, yes, you know, when we were communicating this today to, you know, the principals, there was a lot of excitement around some of these things being prioritized because in the past we haven't been able to afford it.
Tina, when are we expected to receive?
We don't, I don't know when we're expected to receive the funds, but I will tell you, I spoke with the county office and they told me to start creating the POs, because what we're going to do is they're just going to give us the cash, but we're time sensitive with some of these dollar amounts because as of January 11th, all the costs are going up, like almost 15% on switches and things like that. So it's not going to prevent us from getting the pricing that we've gotten, but they're saying we're going to get the cash within this year. So I feel very comfortable. Some of these things, again, we're dealing with supply chain issues. So I might be ordering it now, but it's going to take 4 or 5 months to come in. So a lot of this work is going to happen probably towards the end of this year or over the summer. And the buses right now, we've sent the POs out, but we're not even looking to get these till August. That's how far out they are with the chassis.
I just have a question about the phone and PA system. I know we've talked, I know Ms. Hayes has brought it up numerous times about the security and like the scanning of the IDs and stuff. If we were ever to go to that security system, is that different than this completely? Or you know, like, or are we saying we want system A that's the cheapest and system B does, so they're different, they're two totally
This is different. This is all the phone, like right now, the high school and the intermediate school have no phones in there. This is going to put phones in all the classrooms. It is going to help from the security perspective because there's going to be a phone there. But the badging and the ID systems, both the high school and the intermediate school have asked for capital requests this year that need to be prioritized, but it will go in conjunction. Mike Paul, as being part of the network, you know, administrator, he's making sure that all of this is working collectively so that no matter what we do, like there was a conversation today about the badging system, and it's great that students could badge and there's like a barcode. So if they go to the nurse's office or the guidance counselor, we're going to know where the student is. Well, the next question was, well, do we want something like that on the buses? So everything we're doing, we're looking at a longer range plan so that if we put it in one area, we're going to be able to make sure that we could use it in others.
I figured you were looking at that.
Well, and again, this is not something that I'm just doing myself, because you need to pull Ms. Weldon in, you need to pull, you know, Ms. Hanson in. We're looking at this collectively as a central office. And as we need to discuss this with the principals, we're pulling them in as well. So it's definitely an approach across the entire district.
Wow. Excellent. Ms. Hayes?
Thank you.
Thank you for whatever magic you might have written in the application.
It was a lot of research and understanding what has really happened to this district over the past 10 years, and telling the story so that people that aren't as close to it
See the full picture.
Yeah.
So my main comments and questions were about the esports program. I am over the moon that we have the money to fund this. I don't even know if this board or even a lot of parents in this district would appreciate how huge, I mean, it's my opinion, how huge it is for us to get an esports program. There are hardly any districts in this county that have this. And I mean, I personally think that could be a big attractor to somebody to attend, like the high school, for example, than some of the other awesome programs that we have that might not reach a certain kind of kid. So I can't even say how happy I am. But I was just wondering, would we ever have like kids? I know you said you and I have no idea what kind of a chair or a computer that, and you know, they need the certain lights and whatever, because this is really, they treat it as a sport. Like like they have to have practices and they come, you know. Would we ever have the kids like kind of have some input in this? Because I think if they felt some ownership of how cool this is going to be.
I will definitely take that back to the team. We are going to be meeting. Ms. Weldon set up the meeting.
Yeah, that I don't know if you guys can hear me.
Yeah, we can hear you now.
Ms. Weldon.
That is definitely part of the plan. The first step is just looking over what Dr. Trankina had done, the legwork, and then passing that on to the right players and making sure of facilities. But yes, the students will definitely be involved. Teachers and students.
Thanks, Ms. Weldon.
Yep.
And just to follow up to that is, so when we were at NJ School Board Association, you know, they had the big esports demonstration areas. Yeah. Yeah. And, you know, my son plays esports, or yeah, he does it. And plus video games too, but I have no idea what I'm looking at. Right. So I asked one of the vendors, Shy, which seems to be like the biggest one in the area. Hey, if I ever wanted to see what this looks like besides your pictures, you know, could we go? And they said they could, like, we could go tour one of these schools that has an amazing program. And
So we
just done that.
yeah,
I mean the school board, not just you guys. I mean us.
Oh,
Because I just think it's hard to really realize how awesome and these rooms can look like. So
We should do a ribbon cutting with the kids when we get.
so wait a few months and you can tour ours.
Say tour ours and have
Yes, Ms. McCarthy.
if it was on,
Any recurring costs to the esports wing at all?
There is software. Yes, there is software cost. It would be something that we would need to embed, but it's minimal compared to the capital, like the outlay of setting up the room, getting the equipment. And that's what we were struggling with, being able to get the money for. Once we do this now, Mike Hall we're buying switches, we're doing all of that. Mike Hall will handle like the network piece of it, and then the education component would be handled within Kelly's organization.
So like a rough idea what we're.
We don't. I didn't price that out yet, but I don't think it's that high yet.
Okay.
No.
And then
Yes.
this is all wonderful. You did a great job.
Thank you.
I'm not at all.
It was a team effort.
I'm not all implying by this question that anything was left out. Did we happen to ask for any funding for things that would help us to advance to 100%, serving 100% of the universe for pre-K? By chance?
That is a separate grant, and we are getting that. So
didn't know and we need buildings,
and that'll be part of the budget presentation. But we did file an application. Ms. Hanson put the application together. We are going to be opening 3 additional pre-K classrooms next year. We are moving towards our universe, and I think as we go through the budget process, we'll talk about the preschool expansion grant separately than our general fund. So if you don't mind holding off, but we are definitely you know, Ms. Hanson is definitely all about continuing to grow that population.
Okay, thank you.
That's great. Mr. Clayton.
I heard you say that we're gonna buy 7 school buses. I know.
I think it's going to be 6 because of how much they went up.
I know when I was on the board before, I think you usually replace about 3 a year. Do we need to replace 6 this year?
This year it's 6.
Plan is gone. The 7 hours that plan took to talk about is over.
Yeah.
Just welcome back to school.
Yeah.
Let's talk, Steve.
Yeah. Yeah. So in the past, what we used to do is buy the buses. So our bus fleet is very aged. But now what's happening is we're only allowed to keep them on for 15 years. They're all starting to come to the age that we need to sell them and get new. So for the next 3 years, I need to find 6 buses each year. Now, last year we did start to lease them, which took the cost structure down a bit, but being able to do this and buying them, it's not adding another $180,000 or $190,000 over a course of 5-year period. So if this happens again, the buses are the right places to go to try to get them so that we increase, like the age of the fleet goes from 11 years old to like maybe 6 or 7, which is optimal.
Thank you.
Ms. Hayes.
Since it seems the state didn't really award as much money or any money to those districts that were asking for personnel for money for people. Correct. So is that 1.3? We'll take it. That's great. But is that what we asked for extra and then that's what they didn't give us?
No.
Or?
So we did ask for things like I had a bunch of HVAC on the 5th grade wing. That got denied, but now they're opening up ROD grants, right? So the HVAC didn't come in. That was close to like $700,000. We did have 2 SAC counselors that were in there, and they said they would not use these funds for personnel. That would be a continuing expense. So pretty much that was the other components that we did not get.
Too bad, but thank you.
Oh, but we're trying to prioritize the SACs in this budget. So, I mean, that is one thing that came across as we met with the principals and yeah, absolutely. Yeah. They consider that to be a high priority right now.
Definitely. Thank you so much, Ms. Truba.
Okay.
We're going to move to the architecture's report.
Yeah, so I'll introduce Tom, but the one thing I would like to say is, first of all, I apologize that the report came out today at 3 o'clock. What I would like to do today, and I asked Tom not to come, what I'd like to do is just review the presentation with the board. I would like you to take your time and digest this. I'm not asking for any decisions tonight. We could have Tom come in next board meeting, which is the 24th. Mm-hmm. If over the course of the next 2 weeks, there's specific questions relative to this presentation, I would like to be able to collect those questions and give them to Tom so that when we do meet on the 24th, it could be a more fruitful conversation. I will tell you, based on people in the audience, there are people who are very interested in potentially looking at property if we're looking to sell it towards the back part of this location. Mm-hmm. As your business administrator, I will tell you the costs of everything are probably 30 to 35% higher than they've ever been. So if you were to ask me right now what option I would be looking to look at, it would be option 1, as long as the sale of whatever we decide to do, if we decide to sell, offsets the cost of this building. I do not think that we're able to move transportation like we talked about. When you start to look at those scenarios, you're looking at referendum type costs. Okay, so I just want to make everybody aware. The key thing in what we're going to look at is getting this building to be ADA compliant, getting it up to code with fire escapes, HVACs, roofs. That's going to be the key thing if we would like to keep this building. And Tom will show you, we've also laid out like taking a look at each of the room and upgrading the rooms, like upgrading carpets, things like that is a nice to have, right? It's more important to make sure that we have the compliance of what we need to keep this as a public building. Right. So Tom, I'm going to introduce Tom Strausser. I know most of you know him. Solutions Architect has been our architect of record probably for the past 18 years here. They're very familiar with our buildings and our properties. I told Tom, I said, Tom, could we try to keep this to 10, 15 minutes? Just explain what we've looked at. And like I said, I would like the board, I want to give you all time to digest this, understand it, and then come back with questions so that on the 24th, we could have a more robust conversation.
Good idea.
Okay?
Mm-hmm.
Tom, are you there?
I'm here, Tina. Thank you. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
We can. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. Hope everyone had a great holiday. And I just wanted to apologize as well on my part for this getting to you in your hands so late in the day today. But as Tina said, we'll go through it. If you have any questions, you can just let me know and I can stop and answer them. What's that? Oh, I thought I heard something.
No.
So essentially, we've kind of broken this down into 3 different options, as Tina had mentioned. If you could scroll to the next slide. In general, the property at 163 Monmouth Road is approximately 11.3 acres. And there are wetlands and transitional buffer areas that we have to, as part of any subdivision would have to, or any development, I should say, would have to conform to, and they're all subject to NJDEP approval. We do have estimated buffer and wetlands delineations on the documents that you see now. Again, they're estimated, but you know, we'll be able to finalize those and dig a little bit deeper should we consider depending upon what avenue we take. So if you go to the next slide. So we kind of came right out of the gate, giving you the budget estimates right up in the front. All right. So on the left-hand side, you'll see option number 1. So option number 1 consists of a partial site development where you would actually sell off the back of the site, okay, and the access to that area will be from behind. We'll show you a site plan in a few minutes. But the district would maintain the existing structures, okay. So what we did is we tried to break it down as some priority upgrades, and then we also had included additional things that you would want to include to modernize the existing building, okay. So we've talked to the district for a number of years now about possible options, and ADA upgrades is one of the most important things there. Being able to have an elevator access to the lower level as well as the upper 2 floors. This cost would include a new entry vestibule you'd have to design in order to get everybody into the building. There would be an elevator, a stair. And then we had discussed potential toilet upgrades as well. Okay, so that's included in the cost. One of the other things that's most important right now is the fire escapes as well. Those things need to be upgraded, and you know it's one of the hot items that the district is looking at. Roofing is another priority issue that would have to be upgraded as well. You know, if the roof is in bad shape on any structure, you're going to know that you're going to end up having some problems on the inside. Okay, the envelope is vital to maintain. And then we also had priorities for the maintenance area as well, and the maintenance area also needs some roof upgrades there. And then one of the other really important pieces of the puzzle that the maintenance department needs is they need an area to cover their equipment. A lot of their equipment is actually left out in the yard that's out there. It's not covered by the elements, or I should say it's exposed to the elements. You know, I know in the winter time you are going to have some deterioration over time. Things will deteriorate quickly. So that's been one of the things that we've talked about upgrading for the maintenance department. And then down at the bottom on the left-hand side, the admin building finishes and lighting. So if we wanted to upgrade the lighting in the corridors, in the offices, upgrade the flooring, you know, provide some additional support for the floor as well, because obviously there's a lot of creaking, there's a lot of wear and tear, you know, just to upgrade the building to give it a more modern feel. And then the last item there is the HVAC upgrades. So these are in various states of the condition. Some of them are in fairly good condition, and some of them are in the, you know, on the poor end. We do have those rated in the audit that we recently have pretty much just wrapped up, and that you guys will see shortly. You know, that could be something that could be phased over time. The other thing to think about here is this is also just, these finishes are really just addressing a lot of the occupiable spaces. The building still does offer a lot of areas of storage that, you know, is at a premium nowadays. And I will say at this point in time that option number 2 and 3 is going to be a little limited on and wasn't necessarily factoring in higher levels of storage because we didn't get to a point of design yet. But it is one thing to just kind of factor in. And what we did is we gave you basically the total project cost. Further on down in the presentation is a little bit of a better understanding of what the costs are. We did try to identify a construction cost to, as Tina had mentioned, construction costs are a little bit higher today than they have been over the last number of years. You know, we experienced it with the UV project and the curtain wall replacement project. Across the board, minimum 35%. And that's possibly even on top of some other increases that we've had in the early part of the COVID pandemic. So again, the total cost would be, this would include, it would include construction costs, contingencies, soft costs, engineering, site work, you know, all that kind of stuff we would have there in that total $6.6 million cost that's there. And again, that cost would be offset by the sale of half of the property off of the back end of the site. Option number 2 is another option that we had discussed a couple of years ago, where this would be is if the district decided to sell the entire site, you develop the entire site for potential sale, and the admin offices would then be relocated to the intermediate school. Okay, we had done a layout of the space to see how everybody would be able to fit in there. I'm sure we would have to tweak that a little bit based on today's needs. But the total cost there was $2.6 million. And then the other thing was putting a new maintenance facility, roughly the same size, at the back of the intermediate school site. There are some limitations back there as well because there are wetlands just inside the trees. So there are going to be some buffers that we have preliminary information that indicate that there's space for us to build back there in front of them. But we also would have to go forward full delineation of that as well.
Todd, may I interrupt you for a moment and ask about those wetland permits and how long they typically take?
The wetlands permit is probably going to take somewhere between, somewhere in the ballpark of 18 months in order to be able to go through the whole process.
Okay, thank you.
Can I have a question, Tom, on that one too. Sure. What was the reason for moving, like, I feel like every plan I've ever seen of this, moving the maintenance over to TOIS was actually on the left side of the property and not in the back?
The one that I'm looking at is the one that would be in the back of the property, in far back.
Right. So
that was wetlands. Did
that change since? I feel like the last time we did this, it was actually not proposed to be back there, but proposed to be on the west side of the building.
You mean closer to Park Avenue?
Yes.
Closer to the parking lot and the homes that are over there.
Well, you know what? It is in the if you went into the site and then drove over to the right hand side, it is in the far back towards the northern.
Yeah, no, it was if you're looking at the school, it was actually to the left. On the left, it doesn't really matter. It's fine.
Okay. We'll look at the site plan in a minute, and we'll discuss it then if that's okay.
No worries.
Okay. But there are wetlands that are impacting that site as well. As you get over closer to the homes on the western side, that there are more. We'll look at it in a second.
All right, so that makes sense then.
So then that would be the new maintenance facility, and that's at a price tag of $7.2 million. The option number 3 would have been the full site development. Oh no, this actually is a partial site development. My apologies for that. That would be option 3 is a partial site development where the district would also remove the existing structure at 163 Monmouth Road and construct new facilities, okay? And what that would consist of, demolition of the existing structure that's there, the existing maintenance building and admin building. There's an allowance for hazardous materials because of the fact that we know that there would be some there just because of the age of the construction. The new administration construction would potentially be in the ballpark of $5.2 million. A new admin building with covered yard would be potentially $4.6 million. And then a new transportation building would be in the ballpark of $4.2 million. Now, again, these things haven't been designed yet, so those things could vary as far as what type of construction and what avenue we want to take with that. However, this was just a good estimate on where we stand based on our initial concepts. Parking and drainage would also have to be provided, and then obviously you'd be wanting to install furniture and fixtures and equipment and technology, okay, throughout everything. And then throughout all three of the new structures. And then we'd be looking at potentially a total of $15 million, okay? Again, you would also have the offset cost of a partial development and sale.
So Tom, just let me take a break here. So yes. Just let the team know why I'm saying option one is when you're seeing finishes and lighting of $2.5 million, that's the nice stuff to have, right? I mean, that would be the last part of this if I needed to do anything. I would try to recover, I would take that 2.5 million off the 6.6 and I would see what I could sell the back pieces of the property for and to see if I can get this building to be what it needs to be from an ADA, right, safety, yeah. Right, all of that.
Ms. Parlamas.
Tom, my question is in regards to option one as well. So if we were to go with option one and we sold off some of the property in the back, down the road, if we wanted to add transportation here, would there be room to do that?
It would depend on how much you were going to give up in the back. That would be my honest opinion, right? Because at the moment, you'll see in a minute, we'll show you the layout that we have. We would be pretty much giving up everything beyond the yard that's in the back of the.
I would say the answer to that, Denise, is no.
I would think that that'd be.
And let me explain why. We also have a garage, so I do all my repairs there. Okay, so there's no way we would be able to bring transportation here. In option three, when you look, and I talked to John Bosman, John felt it was extremely tight with the amount of buses that we had and the parking that we were allotting to both the maintenance and the busing fleet.
Okay.
So he didn't think it would even work.
He didn't think it would work with what we had.
Right.
Okay. He was concerned.
Okay, thank you.
And that option, obviously with option three, that's kind of tearing everything down and starting from scratch. So it's a little bit easier to accommodate something like that. As you'll see when we get to that point, we can address it again. We can, talk about, what you'll be able to see how much space it does occupy on the site.
Tom, so I apologize if you explained this when you were going through option one, maintenance facility priority upgrades.
Yes.
There's no cost to that, or that's included.
So what I tried to do is I tried if like starting from the top of that.
You're good, Tom. Question's been answered.
We answered it already. So let's keep on going because I want to just get through this.
So, okay, all right, great. All right, so you can go to the next slide.
Wait for the next one, Ms. Hayes.
Keep on going, Marianne.
Okay. This is so again, option one, what you're getting is a partial redevelopment. I pretty much said this. You would the redevelopment or the subdivision for potential sale would yield 8 lots. Okay, there are requirements today where you have to allow for utility lots. Okay, to for overflow water and rain storage, storm storage. So you'll see that in the plan in a minute. But basically what this does is the district is going to upgrade the existing buildings. And then the board offices are going to be maintained there. The facilities are going to be maintained there. Maintenance facilities are going to be maintained at that site, as well as vehicle storage. But the existing transportation is going to remain over at the high school. You can go to the next slide.
Can I just ask one question right here for a second, Tom, while you're here?
Sure. Yeah.
Mr. Governor,
sorry.
Can I call on you?
Sorry.
Thank you.
Go ahead. Where the proposed road goes out the back, is that going through somebody's present yard, or is that a street right there?
No, there's a paper street in the back there.
So that's a street. Okay.
Yes. Okay. So you can see here what we did. There we go. Okay, so this was maintaining the existing lot, and what you can see is the orange lines are the wetlands delineation and the buffer zone. Okay, so the wetlands is the longer dash lines, and the buffer zone is the shorter dash lines. And the buffer is what we need to maintain and stay at. But you'd be able to come up with, based on this option, you'd be able to come up with a concept of 5 residential lots on a cul-de-sac, and then you'd have these 2 utility lots that would, be able to kind of store rainwater and runoff. What this does is this actually maintains the existing, the existing building, and we might be able to even sneak a little more space into the redevelopment site. But again, this is just conceptual at this point in time. We would massage this as we go. But this would have the existing facilities essentially maintaining. You would construct some level of coverage over the yard that's in the back, where the maintenance garage is, and obviously, like I said, upgrade the existing building. Okay.
Now, what we would need to do is, if we decided this option, of course, we would have to go out and get a market assessment with the 5 lots that we would be able to sell residentially. Right, and we would need to make sure that we have the right zoning, and which we believe we do based on the size of what Ocean Township is requiring. It's like like 100 by 100 kind of thing. So we checked all of that out. That's what the engineer did.
Yeah. So what we could do, and as we go through this, and you'll see in the other 2 scenarios, some of the lots actually don't conform, because again, there is a certain 100 by 100 lot that's designated. And we may not meet it on every condition because of what ends up happening with the shape of this type of. When you break it up, you end up having some oddly shaped property sizes. But at the same time, we still have the opportunity to design it, and like I said, we may be able to give it a little bit more to make it at least conform to the minimum requirements on all sides.
Okay, keep on going.
Go to the next one.
Excuse me, Ms. Tallarico has a question, Tom.
Here.
Sure.
Is that just vacant land back there? Is
Yes.
there anything on there?
There's nothing on it. It's all
Even
wetlands.
it's concealed
It's
and-
considered wetlands, correct?
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so this is just we don't have to necessarily get into this one in an effort to save time. This is essentially a breakdown of a further breakdown of the costs that we kind of discussed earlier. The 6 point on the bottom right hand side, this is the $6.6 million potential total costs for option number 1. Okay, the breakdowns in the right hand column are the ones that are represented in the comparison chart on page 3. This just kind of gives us an idea as to what the total construction costs are, which would be the first numerical column on the left hand side, and then total soft costs and contingencies. And like I said, that usually accounts for 10% of the 10% of the construction costs are built into that for just construction contingencies alone. And then, obviously engineering and environmental and architectural services and such, and utility fees and all those kind of things. So, so that's that. Option number 2 is the full site redevelopment and relocating the board offices to the intermediate school. You go to the next slide. Again, this one actually you get a total of 18 lots. There'd be 13 residential and 5 utility lots. The admin offices would be over at over at Otis, and the new maintenance facility would be at the back of that site. And again, the existing transportation still remains at the high school. So you go to the next slide. So this would be the redevelopment. This would show that there'd be, the road would continue, proposed road would continue all the way through. And then there'd be an island in the middle, and that would serve as one of the utility lots. But you can see that there'd be, you'd be able to come up with 13 lots that would be viable for development under this concept.
Now, just to let me say, like the facilities team, like Amy, we met on this one. This was the one that you did look at. So initially, when we went out and we did a market assessment, we looked at the total lot and they came back with like, oh, we could sell this for a little over $3 million. What this plan allows you to do is it's actually showing what you could do. We would need to work with the zoning board and then get another marketing assessment based on, you know, all of these lots being available for sale. But again, you're selling everything.
And moving over.
And moving and
then having to renovate.
You got it. Correct.
Ms. Hayes.
The moving over to TOIS though, the $2.4 million, is that a proposal to build a new wing?
No, that was renovating a certain area of the building. That
so page 11 is a section of TOIS taken out. And so that's what plan 2 is that it's going to cost $2 million
just to do that.
Just to do that.
So where TOIS is it?
What if we did no renovating? Not no renovating, but like there's no poor man's way to do this?
No.
Because that building is 50 years older than this building.
It's the way the building's being utilized and how it's not conducive right now to like administrative offices in certain areas. Like even though the building is not utilized to capacity, I mean, it's one of the lowest utilized buildings. It's the way the building is cut up and how we have people in throughout the building that you'd have to be able to move things and then retrofit what you have.
If you go to the next slide.
Honestly, too, when this was originally drawn up, that space was not utilized in the same capacity
as it is now.
Today.
Correct.
I mean, utilizing that space now would actually.
That's this chart, Jim, if you look at it.
Yeah, we would have to.
So what space is that in TOI?
As you go in the front entrance, it's to the immediate left.
Used to be a home ec room,
Right. Exactly. It's technology area, black box theater. There's a lot that we
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
And now it's our new electives.
Yeah, I mean, it's things that would be difficult to move to other parts of the building, even though T is correct that, but we don't use it with the declining enrollment. We have more space, but I don't know that we could take some of the things that are there and put them in other parts of the building.
This is a lot of work.
That's the challenge. I mean, that first concept was probably what, 5-6 years old of moving.
And this does not include, like, if you do this and you sell, you would need to sell, and then we would need to rent something to put people in place. So that's not even being accounted for in this scenario. You know what I'm saying? Because it's going to take a while to build things out. You need an interim plan.
But does this plan effectively figure out a way to put an admin staff in a space that is conducive to admin staff, or is it we need to find out the best way to move the classrooms first?
Combination.
What I'm saying? We're not seeing the classroom thing. When I go back to the admin, I'm not saying the admin staff needs to work out of tents or anything like that. I'm just finding it hard to grasp how it would need $2 million to retrofit for admin. If it was $2 million to retrofit the classrooms,
it's this building. It's this entire building, Alex. So you have like your IT storage here. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot here. You have this meeting room.
At the time, we had a full accounting of
I'm sorry, Tom, can you repeat that, please?
He's talking.
At the time, there was a full accounting of the current staff at that time.
Correct.
And we basically essentially took everyone, we were given a listing of everyone and their positions, and we basically assigned locations for them inside here.
All right, can we advance?
Yep. So go to the next slide. Keep on going to the site plans and see if you see it, that's where.
So Amy, this is that location where we were discussing where it is on the east side, but towards the back of the property. If we brought it over further to the west, we get into the fields and it gets a little more difficult over there. At the same time, we can't bring it closer to Park Avenue, because the you can see on the bottom right-hand side, there's that grouping of trees just at the off-ramp of the parkway there. The wetlands comes out a significant amount further. That would have actually been a more ideal location, because then it would have been closer to the street and a little bit easier to get to and not have to navigate all the way through the site. But you know, this is the only location on site where we'd be able to put this type of structure.
Way back.
Which really is just takes out cross country. I think that's the cross country.
Hard to get to.
Okay.
Yeah, keep on
Going, yes.
Just go over scenario 3 next.
Yep. Okay. So yeah. So then this is just a summary of those costs. So this scenario 3, again, this is the partial site development where you're picking up the 5 lots with the 8 lots with the 5 residential and 3 utility. What this does, the only difference here, you're getting these are brand new structures. The layout that we're giving you would be the board office. I believe it was on the 2nd floor over part of the maintenance facility, and then the garage. And then there would be a new transportation office and garage, and then parking for the entire bus fleet that's currently over at the high school. So we go to the next slide, and we can see, and you can see how busy this is. But off the left, we'll start off at the left. There's a new entrance onto the site, okay, and that is you know, that aligns with. Oh no, actually we did offset that from. We were trying to align with the existing street that was cross street that was over there. But you would basically come in and you would see that that's the maintenance building would be on the right hand side there, and we had the board offices on the 2nd floor. You could see how much parking is there, because that's parking for all the bus drivers, that's parking for the admin office, that's parking for the maintenance office, and the facility, you know, maintenance staff, and then obviously all the buses. And what we did is we corralled an area where the buses can be parked towards the back, inside that orange box, if you will, that you see on the perimeter. We tried to allocate the parking for the bus staff in those orange areas, and then obviously the buses would be in the middle. That we also put spacing there, proper spacing, so that you'd be able to have power out there for the buses, which is required these days as well. And then the transportation office would be down towards the southern part of that plant. To the right is those 5 lots that we had discussed in a similar manner that we had laid out for the for option number 1.
Thanks, Tom. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Thank you.
And then obviously you can see, you know, the cost. There was a similar breakdown in the same manner that we had for the other ones.
So please take your time, review this. Any questions, send them to me. But like I said, I really don't see a path to anything other than option 1 if we're choosing to do anything at this point.
Mr. Clayton.
I just had a question. When was the most recent appraisal of this land?
The summer,
A couple months ago.
And
It was recent.
$3 million. And when we did it prior to that, it was 2.
Okay.
But again, what I was told is if we show them a blueprint of what we could potentially do with this land, the appraisal might go up if we sell it.
I see.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Ms. Hayes.
Barring Shawanda's ideas again, when would you like our questions emailed to you? Is there a deadline? And then to follow up that, like, so should we expect to maybe have those questions answered at the next meeting, or like is Tom going to get them too ahead of time?
If you could give it to me by next week, next Friday, it's fine. What I'd like to do is as they come in, I'll collect them. I'll absolutely work with Tom to get them answered. But when I respond, I'm going to respond to everybody, but it's just going to be informational at that point, right? So
Not a discussion.
not a discussion.
Oh, you would
And then
actually
we
give us
won't have a
some
discussion
answers?
until the 24th. Exactly.
Okay.
Thank you.
Because I want, this is very important. This is an important decision. And I want you to have as much facts as possible, but based on whatever you decide, we're gonna have to go out and get a market assessment. And to Tom's point, some of the lots, we might need to get approval on the zoning.
Yeah, it would make sense for us to have some discussions, you know, as we move forward, to have some discussions with the town as well.
Zoning, exactly.
All right, thank you, Tom. Thank you for your presentation.
You're welcome, anytime.
Thank you.
Great night, everyone.
Good night.
Thanks. Tom.
At this point in the meeting, we will now conduct the first of two public comment sessions. The first session will be open for public comments on agenda items only. The second session will be at the end of the meeting and can be on any topic. Would anyone in our audience here today like to make a comment? Yes, Mr. Haddon, to the microphone, please.
Yes.
Joe Haddon, 813 Roosevelt Avenue. Okay. It was hard to read the screen. So on option one, what was the total?
Option one, the total was 6.67 million.
And then two?
Two was 7.28 million.
Three?
15.756 million.
Oh, okay. Okay. And do any of these options involve not getting the zoning board involved or the township in any way, shape, or form?
No, you have to.
In each option, even the first one where you're
The first one, because we're selling pieces of the back lot, correct? The second one, we would be selling the entire property.
in any option, you're selling part of the land, so
Correct.
therefore you have to have the town involved.
Correct.
All right, well, good luck with that. Thanks.
Thank you, Mr. Haddon. Anybody else in the audience here like to make a comment? Ms. Conway, anybody on our Zoom?
No, President Gilman, there are no commenters.
I know, that sounds strange. Thank you very much. Okay, we're going to go to our action items next. Mr. McCarthy, can I call on you to just go over the minutes, please?
Move to approve items 7.1 through 7.3.
Second.
Okay, so hold on here.
No
So I'm
questions or
sorry, who
comments?
was the second? I apologize.
McGovern.
Ms. McGovern.
Okay. All in favor?
I had a
Hold on
question.
1 second.
Doesn't this minutes, wait, I'm sorry, never mind.
No? Okay. All in favor of approval?
Aye.
All opposed?
I'm going to recuse myself from 7.1 and 7.2 since I was on the board.
Correct.
Yes,
Okay.
7.3.
So recused. 7.1 and 7.2. All in favor was yes. Any opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you. Financial Management and Resource Services, Ms. Tortorella.
Thank you, Ms. Gilman. I have 2 items for approval and 3 for discussion this evening. 8.1, move to approve a resolution with the Alliance for Competitive Energy Services for cooperative natural gas pricing. This is a cooperative purchasing agreement with other New Jersey school districts as per the attached. 8.2, move to approve a resolution with the Alliance for Competitive Energy Services for cooperative electric generation services. This is a cooperative purchasing arrangement with other New Jersey school districts as per the attached. 8.3, Board of Ed and Administration will discuss a rental agreement for use of the ice rink facility at the Jersey Shore Arena for high school ice hockey team practices and meets for 5 years, beginning with the 2023-24 season through August 31st, 2028, in accordance with the attached agreement. 8.4, Board of Ed and Administration will discuss approving integrated care concepts and consultation of Tinton Falls as a new vendor for the district to provide home instruction for students. And 8.5, Board of Ed and Administration will discuss a grant in the amount of $8,857 from the New Jersey Department of Agriculture, Division of Food and Nutrition through a new local food for schools cooperative agreement program. The grant will be used to purchase locally grown food for the district, brochure and program description attached. May I have a second on 8.1 and 8.2?
Second. Do you want to have discussion first on any of the items, or do you want me to go for a vote on the?
We can vote. We can get that done.
Okay, so
The
we're going
ones
to be,
are up for vote.
Okay, so we're gonna vote for 8.1 and 8.2. Unless there's any questions on them first. Okay, Ms. Beal?
Yes.
Mr. Clayton?
Yes.
Ms. Hayes?
8.1, I recuse myself because of my employer. 8.2, yes.
Mr. McCarthy?
Yes.
Ms. McGovern?
Yes.
Ms. Prolamis?
Yes.
Ms. Tellerico?
Yes.
Ms. Sortarello?
Yes.
Ms. Gilman?
Yes.
Motion carries, and we just need to, if there's any discussion on the remaining.
Right, 8.3 to 8.5. Any comments, questions? Ms. Hayes?
Just some other questions that I emailed earlier. So, what was our previous length of our ice hockey? I don't remember being 5 years, so that's why it just kind of threw
It
me.
was 5
It's always been
years,
5
yeah.
years. Maybe I'm thinking of swimming.
Swimming is different. That's the JCC.
Don't have a nice ring.
One's in, one's not.
But, and then 8.4, the integrated care. Can you go over what that is? When I went on their website, they seem all about like
Home health, it's a homeschooling. So of course, we try to keep it in-house, but if we do not have teachers that are willing to homeschool or go in for home instruction, then we need services to be able to do that. So this is on an as-needed basis.
And how often do we have kids on home instruction?
It just, it depends.
Historically.
It's not, right? I mean, Jim, it's.
Yeah, I mean, it depends. Most of it is medical reasons.
Right.
It depends. It varies from year to year. Some of it could be, administratively enforced home instruction for disciplinary reasons, but most of the time it's for medical reasons. And it's mostly short term, but there are some long term. As Mr. said, this is really for as needed. Our first choice would always be our own staff. But if we have a situation where someone is either not available or perhaps it's a subject area that we can't find, then we'd look to contract out to provide the service as we are legally required to do.
So we're not thinking more than $20,000 in the year. Okay.
Unless there's something,
Yeah.
In the last couple of years, with
that's why
it's off the last couple of years because with the virtual option when it existed,
right, exactly.
None of this was necessary, right?
Yep.
So
that was one of my questions. So is this in person or virtual? It's in person.
It's a person.
And what is the cost? Do we know, or we're waiting for the contract?
I don't know which particular one. I mean, I know when it's our own, we have a rate for our own people. I believe it will probably be rare that we would have to use this group, but there are occasions where we don't, we're not able to find someone. So.
Yes,
I'm sorry, I have one more. So I'm very familiar with this organization. It's a counseling organization. How long have they had, the home instruction? I just wasn't aware of it. And are we using them for counseling as well, or no?
I don't believe so.
Okay. Thank you.
all right. If there are no further questions, we'll move to instruction, education, and student activities. Ms. Field?
I'm sorry, 8.5. I was waiting for her to explain 8.5.
You have a question on 8.5? For discussion.
Sure. Yes. Can you tell us more about it? Because it sounds like an amazing thing.
Oh, so I mean, Ms. Prolamis could fill us in. She connected me with the individual. So what group is she with?
Interfaith neighbors.
Correct. Say it again.
Interfaith neighbors.
So Ms. Prolamis was approached by a director at Interfaith Neighbors. Her name is Karen Moskowitz. And there's a program where she is working with local farms, and she's trying to get all of that produce into schools. And she started with Asbury, and of course, Asbury's food service is Sodexo. So Sodexo worked with Sodexo, and Denise made the connection for us, which thank you very much. This is one place that this worked exceptionally well. And we filled out an application, and we're going to get close to $9,000 of free vegetables that we could do a couple of things. We could either send children home with the vegetables, or we could use them within our food service. And then as we go through the year, if the grant doesn't get utilized, whoever's in the grant pool will continue to get more money. So I thought it was a great thing, and people seemed very excited about it. Gail, our food service manager, was more than happy to assist with the grant and work with the team. So, we're looking forward to this partnership.
So it essentially gives us like $9,000 in grant money, and then we buy the produce from the local farmers.
In other words, they'll help facilitate, what's in season. Yeah. What do we want to give? And that's how we'll work it through. Yeah.
I think there are some awesome.
It's like a CSA.
There are some awesome social media posts in there, but what do I know? It would be cool if we could maybe tag some of the farms, or give some mention to some of the farms.
I mean, there's a brochure that we put in here. I could ask to get more of that information, but it is a great idea, I think.
It's awesome.
Yes, Ms. McGovern.
I was just gonna say this would also be, and you might already be doing this, a good thing to maybe connect them with Ms. Edson's class as well, to talk to them too about, they might be able to come in, farmer, it might give her more people to have reach with for her class.
Okay.
And the garden club.
Good idea.
Because I know they're trying to grow produce.
Yep.
To put in the school as well.
Natalie's going to eat some of it tonight.
I have a salad.
Wow, that's fantastic. Thank you.
Thank you for that
update.
update.
We will move to instruction, education, and student activities. And Mrs. Beal.
Move to approve 9.1 through 9.7.
Second.
Take a vote,
and we'll take a vote.
Okay, Ms. Beal.
Were there any questions on those at all? Because we didn't really discuss.
We didn't discuss them. Are there any questions or concerns in student activities?
It's fine.
Instruction.
I think 9.5, the preschool study, sounds fantastic. That we keep jumping on these opportunities, but I love how it also not only is like a survey, but it will give us ideas to improve.
Yeah,
so that would be awesome.
Obviously, they're doing now that the preschool programs have been in place around the state for a number of years, they're doing a study, Rutgers, in conjunction with the Department of Education. What's nice is we'll get local data, which is good. So yeah, should be a nice thing.
Since there's only 100 districts or 100 school buildings, is it districts or school buildings in the state that are, I think it's schools that are getting this survey for free. Do we know any in Monmouth County? Like, is this?
I don't know.
Something that
I'm sure. I mean, I believe there are definitely other Monmouth County districts involved. I'm not sure which one specifically, but
awesome.
Yeah.
Any further discussion? If not, we'll vote.
Ms. Beal?
Yes.
Mr. Clayton?
Yes.
Ms. Hayes?
Yes.
Mr. McCarthy?
Yes.
Ms. McGovern?
Yes.
Ms. Palamas?
Yes.
Ms. Tellerico?
Yes.
Ms. Tortorella?
Yes.
Ms. Gilman?
Yes.
9.8 is a discussion item.
Yes, it is. Yes, Ms. Tortorella.
What's the cost to, how do we determine if a student cannot afford? And what do we do?
We always, work, the building administration works to identify any student who certainly would be, listed as a free and reduced lunch student. The problem is that there are some students who are not listed as free and reduced lunch students who also may not be able to afford a trip. That makes it a little more challenging because some of that has to be done through perhaps a self-reporting that, the student's having trouble with that issue, or through the advisor, or information that may come to the advisor. But we always work to identify any student who may be in trouble with that, and then, make arrangements to try to offset costs or do additional fundraising or whatever would need to happen in order to not have any student not go for that reason.
Okay. Thank you.
And I think we do that for all trips because we've had this discussion before. Someone.
Well, I mean, obviously, when you talk about some of the trips that are $1,500, that we've had, that's obviously a little tougher, and even ones like this that are $200 are a little tougher. But no student, because of their own means, should be denied an opportunity. So, that is something that is always on our radar screen, and something we work very hard to address when it's needed to be addressed.
Ms. Hayes?
Just piggybacking on what Natalie said, this is during this the school week. So if there were any free and reduced kids going on this trip, you know, they'd get meals provided by us. And Harrah's is not a cheap place to have 3 meals a day. So beyond just the $200 that it costs to go on this trip, I do worry about some of the out of pocket. I know, you know, we don't want to call attention to kids and be like, and here's your gift card and here's your gift card. But you know,
yeah, the advisors,
it's not just the
advisors in the administration work with those students. And
that would be awesome. Maybe people could donate. I don't know.
Any other questions or comments for 8.9.8?
9.8.
Oh, I'm sorry, yes, 9.8. Right. Let's move to personnel. Ms. Paralamas.
Sure. Motion to move items 10.1 through 10.6. Do I have a second?
Second.
Ms. Truba?
Give me 1 second. Okay, great. Ms. Beal?
Yes.
Mr. Clayton?
Yes.
Ms. Hayes?
Yes.
Mr. McCarthy?
Yes.
Ms. McGovern?
Yes.
Ms. Palamas?
Yes. I didn't hear you.
Ms. Talarico?
Yes.
Ms. Tortorella?
Yes.
Ms. Gilman?
Yes.
Motion carries.
And our discussion items
we did that upstairs.
next time.
No, we did it upstairs.
Oh, we did that upstairs. I'm sorry. Yes, we did. Let's move to policy. Ms. Talarico.
Thank you, Ms. Gilman. Let's see, 11.1. Was the first reading. The Board of Education Administration will discuss the first reading of the revised policies and regulations as follows. And we have some policies.
First one being followed.
2 of them are abolished, the road forward and the school employee vaccination requirements. Those are good. We have 0152 board officers, 0161 call adjournment and cancellation, 0162 notice of board meetings. PNR 2423 bilingual and ESL education, 2425 emergency virtual or remote instruction, 2425 regulation, emergency virtual or remote instruction program. Policy 5512 harassment, intimidation, or bullying. 8140 student enrollments, 8140 the regulation for enrollment, accounting, bomb threats, lockdown procedures, and active shooter. These are the policies.
And these were updates from Strauss Esmond.
Correct.
Right,
Correct.
This was the
mandated
latest
ones.
release.
So, right, these are the most up-to-date
Correct.
regulations and policies regarding these issues. Ms. Hayes.
For the shooter and bomb drill one, in layman's terms, I'm understanding as they're taking everything out because it gives a little bit too much of our plan away, right? So they're saying everything's in our plan. So is the board able to see what this plan is, and have we cross-checked it to make sure it, you know, checks all the boxes that were in the old policies that now we have to take out?
Yeah, I mean, that, you know, that's something that's already in there. I mean, the interesting thing, of course, is if you would have read the policies that currently exist that are, you know, they're there now, is the point.
It's saying it's taking it out.
Yeah, but it's in the policy now. So
can you explain that a little bit more?
Yeah, I'm just saying it's not that much of a secret, is my point. It's in the current regulation, I believe. Right?
But according to the policy, it says we're taking all this out and developing a crisis plan and procedure.
Right.
So I understand what you're saying, but what I'm asking is do we have a crisis plan, and can the board see it?
Yeah, I think we've said we make it available if you want to come in. You know,
okay.
We don't.
Jim, I apologize.
I mean, they're usually done by school. There's typically school plans, school safety plans that each school has. Yes.
So you have all the plans here
in
we have all of them.
I don't think John heard you.
Our security.
I'm just having trouble hearing you down here.
I'm saying we don't make those available out. If someone wants to see anything related to security, they come in. We can review it.
Okay.
Understood. Thank you.
Yeah.
More questions on the first reading of those new policies? Yes.
I'm sorry, I just wanted to say, but what I was speaking to was that I think it's kind of ironic, just based on the fact that the current plans have those things listed in them on the policy, is what I'm saying. So it's kind of silly.
To take it out.
to say that we're gonna take it out now when it's been there for so long. That's all.
Ms. Hallery?
Thank you. I have a question about 152, the board of officers. According to the policy, when there are multiple nominations, they're both voted on, even if one receives more votes the first time, according to the policy. So last meeting, it should have been a roll call for a vote for both.
I agree. We had two people on the floor and we only voted for one person.
Is that language in the where is
It's
that
at
language?
policy 0152, voting shall take place by verbal roll call after nominations are closed. When more than one person has been nominated for a single position, the board will vote on candidates in the order in which they were nominated.
Right, but it also speaks to once a majority is reached. That's it.
When
there's a majority.
The person with the majority vote.
It still says
the members shall be elected.
It still says you're supposed to do both.
Yeah, you're supposed to do both and then say at the end, this majority won. Yes.
Oh, we've
never
done it that way, to my knowledge.
We did that. No, we did that last year. We had two people last year and we voted. You know what the second one is generally. But if you're like in the House of Representatives and you're trying to write, have some deals, you can vote, yes, I'm voting for you. And then meaning like, John, you lost. But the next time when it comes time for John, I'm gonna be like, John, I'm voting for you. Like, I should still have the right to vote for the second person. And
I don't believe that's how we did. I think we only had single nominations last year for both president and vice president, did we not?
You're talking about the year before when it was Irene and Jeff.
Oh, that wasn't last year.
Last year.
2 years ago.
2 years ago, yes.
Well, did the first person get a majority in that vote?
It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if it's 9-1. You're still supposed to, for our policy.
I don't know that. I don't know if that's, it's your policy. You can read it however you want.
Policy 0152.
I don't know that that's clearly what it says. Basically, what it says is once a majority is achieved, that's who. So let me ask this question. If there's two votes and one is 7-2 and one is 6-3, both are a majority, who wins?
Yeah, I had made a recommendation.
It says you have to keep going until it.
Sorry, both a majority. Who wins if one is 7-2?
You have to vote again. You have to vote again until there is a clear winner.
Well, that's the question. What define a clear winner? Is a majority a clear winner? But if you have two votes and you have one person gets 7 votes and one person gets 6, does the person who gets 7 votes wins? But both had a majority.
Maybe when that happens, we can, maybe ask Attorney Gross on that. But what happened 2 weeks ago or last week was that we weren't affording Grace Ann the politeness and the following of the procedure to have her vote read. And we all didn't record our votes on Grace Ann. So I think it was an oversight that was unfortunate.
I believe we've always done it, and this is certainly the board can decide. I believe the way we've always done it is we vote in the order in which the nominations were made, and once a majority is obtained, that's when that's the person.
Yes, Mr. McCarthy.
I was just going to point out a point of information. When we had reviewed this policy in the committee, I had made the recommendation. I don't believe it made it into the final draft, which I'm fine with. I mean, it's okay. But I made the recommendation that there should be a statement in the policy that no member can vote more than once for a position, for a single position, to avoid this tail chasing discussion that we're having.
Yeah, well, if you it's just policy.
I apologize, Jim. So I mean, my recommendation would be, well, sending things to the policy committee. Maybe they review this again and we consider putting that in, and to avoid any question of, should we have had the second vote? Because technically, if nobody could vote twice, then there wouldn't have even been a need for a second vote. That makes sense. But that was
John, I think this is up for board discussion right now. I don't think it needs to go back to the policy committee. This is new policy.
It does go back.
So then, thank you, Jim. I appreciate you pointing that out.
This is for this.
So that that was the initial proposal that I had made to change, yeah, and so maybe it's something that we consider adding in so that it can avoid this.
So where do you think it should be added? Because we'll add it right now because that's.
Sorry, my computer like crashed,
Here.
so give me 2 seconds to.
You can have mine.
There was a list of. Actually, I had sent my
I know, I'm looking.
I had sent it via email.
It should probably go in that third paragraph. Voting shall take place by verbal roll call vote after nominations are closed. When one or more person has been nominated, the on candidates in the order in which they were nominated.
So maybe
Then we should put something after that.
the board member. The board will vote on all candidates. If that's
Right,
what we
because,
want.
I really know we're just discussing, it. 2 years ago, when Mr. Weinstein and Ms. Gilman were both nominated for vice president, the vote was held for Mr. Weinstein first, and he achieved the
required
he
majority.
required majority, and then there was an additional vote, so.
Don't vote for you.
So this is how we've operated. If you want to go a different direction, you certainly can. There's also, there's also an option in this. We kept it the same. It speaks to it in the explanation that right now the policy speaks to the majority of the board present at the meeting. You can choose to make it the majority of the board as a whole, so that would always require 5 votes. So that's another way you could go.
It's another option. Yes, Mr.
So this is what I proposed to policy 0152, correct? Okay, 0152. I stated there's no language in this bylaw that states that a board member can only vote for a single candidate for a board officer position. And additionally, and I don't know if this is in here, I apologize, I couldn't review it again because my computer crashed, but I said additionally, there's no language about requiring a member to accept the nomination, especially since it states that a second is not required. I think it should clearly state, quote, when more than one person has been nominated, the board will vote on candidates in the order in which they were nominated. Period. Board members are not allowed to vote for more than one candidate. And I put in something that was vetoed by the policy committee. I said nominated members are not authorized to vote for themselves. I said, that should be something that's considered as well, whether or not you're voting for yourself.
But that's always been done too.
Right, I'm saying that was just part of my proposal. Yes. But that was what I proposed instead.
We also got a legal opinion about this issue years ago, not just about voting for yourself, but just once in that order, once a majority is achieved, that the voting then stops at that point. The question came up years ago, if I remember correctly.
I don't remember that.
Yeah.
Can we see that?
It doesn't mean.
All right, so we'll take that.
All right, so at the end of the third paragraph, we're going to add board members are not allowed to vote for more than one candidate.
And that will end this discussion.
Is everybody okay?
Can we
with
say
that?
board members must or shall? Because to say you're not allowed to do something is a little, what is that word in English?
Board members what must or shall
it's
not?
negative rather than making it positive. Like
So what would you?
whatever it is, but I'm
Shall only vote for.
yes, thank you.
Board members
Shall only vote for a single.
Yes,
candidate.
Ms. McGovern.
Quick, Ms. McGovern here. The reason why we voted on both Ms. Gilman and Mr. Weinstein that year is because Ms. Gilman was nominated first. So we voted on the first person and you had a 4 or 5 votes, so you did not have the majority, which is why we then voted on Mr. Weinstein 5-4. So that's the reason.
Right.
And yeah,
so that we want to change.
Thank you.
that.
That.
well, I'm just saying, majority, so you had to be on the next one. So I'm just, I just went back to the reorg minutes and
So we
read
did
in there.
call for.
So then we want to change that second
Right, but
sentence
if
to say.
initially, we would have stopped at that point.
Stop.
That's
But she
based on how we think.
Who knows?
I'm sorry to say.
Statement.
I'm sorry to say I did.
I was going to say a lot of things.
So is that
Thank
fair,
you.
Mr.
No, I think we need to go back to 0152 again, please. And let's look at that second sentence. Because that second sentence is to take a vote. We're saying we don't want to do that. You're saying is voting shall take place verbal roll call vote after nominations are closed. When one or more person has been nominated, the board will vote on candidates in the order in which they are nominated.
Period.
You want to say if a majority is received, there is no other vote taken.
No, just
That's what you're saying now, right?
It is. That's pretty
That's
concise.
really what it is.
That's what it is.
Right, and then we
That's
would
what you're saying.
So-
You're saying you can't vote.
Yes,
majority.
Right. If the majority is achieved.
I think you should say that once the majority is received, the voting ends.
The
If
vote,
a majority is
vote's
not,
over.
if a majority is not received, voting will. end.
The vote.
Yeah, you go.
That's it. So once the majority is received, no more votes will be taken, and then we add. Board members shall only vote for one candidate.
Well, now it's redundant.
Well, would you tell me what you want? Because you gotta say something about this majority. Because it says that to you, we took the vote on everybody. I mean, that is what, because we had Strauss and that's what we did.
What if there's three candidates? I mean,
exactly.
If there's three candidates, you can't vote for two, or you can't vote for more
That's
than
what,
one?
that's what we're saying.
I don't know. I don't really agree with that.
Then you would get from 3 to 2, and then you would probably vote again for the 2, and then you would probably get down to 1. You know what I mean? Like,
So
you all couldn't vote.
So that should be stated in the policy that there would be a runoff election, right? So you'd have.
The procedure shall be repeated until someone receives a majority vote of all the members of the board. So what was the language that Strauss has made us? Let's just stick to that and move on.
So we're agreeing to the.
Yes, that we're just going to do the.
So what would you like the amendment to be? I just want to make sure I'm.
Should we read what you wrote because you.
Well.
Okay, so after this
voting shall take place by.
Then one person has been nominated for a single position, the board will vote on the candidates in the order in which they were nominated.
Right. The board will vote, continue to vote until a majority is received.
So that means that.
And then no additional.
If that means if the first person you vote gets the majority, you don't vote the second.
That's right.
Okay.
Once the majority is received,
no additional votes. Is that clear? And then we can review that in our second reading.
Yeah.
Good. Sure. That's good. All right. Then we'll move on. PR.
Yep.
Ms. Hayes.
I just pulled it up. Board of Education and Administration will discuss the Citizens Advisory Committee.
Okay, which we did at a previous meeting, but Ms. Tallarico said that she was not present during that time and would like to review it.
So now I don't have the date in front of me, but in October, I was asked to update a policy from another township, and I did that. And then it was supposed to be discussed on November 1st when I wasn't here. It wasn't discussed, and then it seemed like it was dropped. So I just sent, I just asked last meeting if we could take a look at the minutes or whatever from the previous meetings to see what happened.
Yeah, there was no straw person taken based on what there was conversations around the Citizen Advisory Committee.
Yes.
But there was no straw person taken as to whether or not we should continue with it or not.
So we said that.
Hold on a minute. Excuse me, Mrs. Beal.
Is this the same committee that Mr. Weinstein had?
Yes.
And was proposed?
Yes, that's correct. And when we discussed it, I think we were weighing the positives and the negatives when we went through all that would be required and, what their role would be.
Yes.
And in our discussion, I remember us just kind of saying, nah, this is not really something that we want to do, but I don't know if it was put to a formal vote at that time.
Well, we said like a couple meetings ago that it was voted down, but it turns out it wasn't. So can we discuss now if there should be a vote?
Because I had a recollection that there was some type of informal, should we do this not?
Yes, it was very informal.
And it came up either 4-4 or something, and so it was, we're gonna drop it.
Yeah, Jeff, I think was like, do we need to, does anyone want to pursue this? And everybody kind of just gave their, no, we're good, like, or yes, I want to, and I think at the end of the day, we all just kind of. I remember being surprised that we
Becky looked at
this
three
board
times,
said no.
three different.
I mean, I was against it. I don't think we need it, but I remember being like, oh, that was a long discussion for that thing we weren't gonna do.
Went down to policy.
We districts, so we didn't really, look at your submission of what.
Like, why ask you to update a policy and then never bring it to the board? It doesn't make any sense to me. I have it right here. I said November 1st, it was supposed to be discussed, and I said that on the.
I remember you speaking about it.
Can we keep the discussion going so that everybody can hear it, please?
No, I just wanted to.
You wanted to say something?
No, I'm just looking back and we discussed it on a 10-11.
10-11.
Sorry, 9:20.
Right.
9:20. That was our initial discussion.
Correct. And then he had asked me on the meeting before the first, and I don't know what that was, maybe a week or two or
No,
before.
like 3 weeks. I'm sorry. It was like.
Okay.
10
I'm sorry, say that again.
It
Amy.
was like around my birthday. It was like 10:15 because I'm gonna
Okay.
go to Atlantic City.
Right.
So it was like the middle.
It was right
whatever
before that.
Like 10:15, 10:12, something like that. Meeting is when we just
Right.
when you did talk about policy, and I remember you speaking about policy. Then I remember after that us having a conversation to say, thank you, Grace Ann, for doing the policy, but we're just this is.
And the question is, what do we want to do with it?
Discussion, because I remember being shocked.
Would anybody like to, would anybody like to make a motion to table or to continue? I mean, I think that's where we're at right now is because we did not get any resolution.
Or I think we just go
Uh,
on and say.
Or
We discussed it already.
yeah,
Evidently, we have recall of it. And we didn't move forward with it in any way. Yes, Mrs. Beal.
Grace Ann, can you make a motion as to what it is that you're looking for?
I'd like to make a motion to go forward with having a citizens advisory committee. We've been talking about it for over a year.
Well, do we have a
second
and any discussion then?
So we have, let me get this right or not.
So we have
Right.
Grace Ann saying yes, so there's a motion to continue with an advisory committee. We have a motion from Grace Ann.
Seconded by Alice. It's seconded by Alice. It's a motion from Grace and it's seconded by Alice. Now it's for discussion by the board president.
Okay, so
I think we talked about it during board goals. I think that's when we said we weren't going to do it.
Yes, I think
there was
you're
no
right,
straw,
because it
there
was
no
going to
straw,
be a
I'm telling you.
yeah,
Yeah.
I was there's no recollection of us saying we're not doing it.
I mean, I could read the policy I wrote.
So
You know,
do we
I
want
mean,
to take a
I
vote?
could do it.
After that.
Mr. McCarthy, or, I'm sorry, Mr. Clayton, you had your hand up?
Yeah, I was just saying, you know, since I wasn't on the board, I would need to know more about it before making a decision.
Okay.
And I would
I
like to
I
see,
think we never got to a point of what it was gonna be really.
because we never saw Grace Ann's.
But
we did
we heard about it during the board goals. Yes, Mr. McCarthy.
Grace, I really appreciate the work that you did on the policy side of all this. That being said, I don't agree with a need for this committee. And my reasoning behind that is that I think that we're already struggling as it is to involve people in these meetings. And I'd like to encourage more involvement here at the board meetings. So speaking in the con against this, you know, this is not something that I would like to see created. I will be voting against it.
Thank you. Anybody else have a comment? Mrs. Hayes.
I appreciate your sentiment. I almost feel like for the exact opposite is why we should have it. I think we can't get enough people to come to these because I think there's like a stigma or, oh, I don't want to go sit through a fancy meeting or a long meeting, but I think something a little more impersonal, personal rather than the impersonalness of a board meeting is what was the intent of this. To then I feel like that might draw people in to the reverse of it.
Any other comments? Yes, Mr. Arnold.
I agree with John. I think we have many opportunities for people to come and engage. And I don't think we need to add another committee at this time.
Can we have a vote then?
Absolutely. So a yes would be that you want to continue with the advisory committee. A no would be you do not. Okay. Ms. Beal.
No.
Mr. Clayton, you're
Abstaining
recused.
because I don't know the full picture.
Got it. Ms. Hayes.
Yes.
Mr. McCarthy.
No.
Ms. McGovern.
No.
Ms. Prolamis.
No.
Ms. Talarico.
Yes.
Ms. Tortorella.
No.
Ms. Gilman.
No.
Motion does not pass.
Okay, so it's on the books. Let's move to old business. Anybody have something to come before the board from old business? Then we'll move to new business. Mr. McCarthy.
Madam President, you are already aware of this. I brought this up to you and we've had a discussion about it. There was an informal meet and greet that I was invited to with Senator Gopal last week. In that meet and greet, there was a discussion of what could be done for our district. I made a very brief comment that I would like to see our budget funding restored, which I was told, well, you know, you received $1.3 million of stabilization aid. And then I followed up with another statement that it would be nice if someone would look into the cost that is allocated to school districts to bus private school students to their schools. And that was the end of the discussion. It was not a discussion of board business. If the meeting was not under that pretense, just to be very clear, it was for coffee. It was a meet and greet. The senator followed up with me and he asked me if I could provide that data to him. To which I responded, I'm not at liberty to do that. I forwarded the information to our board president and said, this information is something that has been requested. I think that at this point, this has breached the level of board business. This needs to be brought before the board before it can be considered to be presented to him to follow the appropriate procedures. It was brought to my attention that there's potential that I may have skirted the line there on discussing board business. So I do apologize if it's interpreted that way, but I was advocating for our students to the best of my ability, and that is why I made a brief comment about it. But that being said, I would like to now present that to the board for consideration so that if that is the case, that we can then turn that data over to the chair of the Education Committee to consider.
Thank you, Mr. McCarthy. I'm not quite sure if that's something that we're allowed to do, and that is to discriminate against busing to our private schools, but certainly it's something
it's a state law.
Yeah,
and could be tied to federal funding. So I mean,
we don't want to lose any funding.
The question would have to be done at the legislature. I think, if you don't mind me saying, Madam President, I think that's what Mr. McCarthy is asking, for the information to be passed
to be provided,
the
data.
So that
they would like to say anything about it. Correct. Thank you.
Well, then
You probably have no idea.
since I don't have that information, maybe Ms. Truba can get it.
We spent about $190,000 a year busing to the private schools. It's called Aid in Lieu.
I thought it was 500,000.
No. Aid in Lieu is where we can't provide routes. Okay, we sent them out. We can't provide routes, so we provide parents. It's $1,022 per student. So we're spending about $190,000 on that. In addition, routes that MOESC has taken over for schools like Hillel, some of the Catholic schools, that's an additional like $300,000. And I do have that broken out, and we get that approved at a board level. If you go back and look, you will see each of the routes go out and the dollar amounts. So if you want me to put a total, I can easily get that. That will take me about 10 minutes. If 10 you need minutes? It. Yeah, it's not, we keep all of that. We keep a very close eye on all of it.
And at this point, I'm happy for that conversation to continue between the board president, just so we're very clear. You know, I'm not looking to be involved in the conversation anymore.
Well, Ms. McCarthy, I know that's something that I've been thinking about as a possible legislative committee made up of board members, including myself, that we could meet. I don't know how regularly, but we could at least open the lines of conversation to all of our legislators and let them know these kinds of things that are of concern and that are kind of bleeding us a little bit, see what they could do. So, you know, once perhaps we get our advisory opinion and I'm allowed to open up new committees, then that's something that something that's a priority on my list.
Appreciate that.
All right. Yes.
I just thought of something. May I suggest also, feel free to I'll send you the dates for the Monmouth County School Board Association, because perhaps you can pose this to
absolutely
at least 30 school board members, go to each one. And if other districts, maybe that can get a little round table started.
And I've attended those meetings. They're open to any board member, but again, it's another night out.
They're virtual.
So just to close this out, so we will be you will take care of providing that to the
senator. Absolutely.
Okay, thank you.
I will get that to you tomorrow.
Thank you.
Mr. Federello. New business regarding how we read agenda items. We were going to talk about that.
Yes. So this evening, you heard us make motions to read 8.1 for approval, and I'd like to continue in that vein, especially when we start our budgetary hearings, unless there is as tonight with the architect's report, a PowerPoint that we need to see, or with Ms. Truba's report that we need to see. I think that our public gets a look at the agenda within 48 hours. And really the public sessions of our board meetings are the perfect opportunity for community members to voice any concerns, to ask any questions. And that really is what our board meetings are about, so that the community can give their input. And is there any objection to doing it in that way? If we run into a problem, we certainly could read through the motions, but otherwise, any comments, questions, concerns? Yes.
Could you explain that again? I don't understand what you're.
Okay, so when I was reading, or when Ms. Tortorella is reading her committee report for instruction, education, or financial, we would go through every single, and I know I've been accused of reading too much, but say.
Yes, you have.
Thank you. So the financial management, 8.1 to 8.5. Well, we had discussion items. So Ms. Tortorella said, you know, I have 2 items for voting and 3 items for discussion from 8.1 to 8.5. And we did.
So I read them tonight, but we're saying in the future, I wouldn't read those. I would just say, or whoever is reading their report would just say 8.1 through 8.3 is for vote.
Just kicked it out. She implemented it tonight.
She jumped right in. Yes, Ms.
I think to answer your question,
she piloted the program.
Whichever ones had a motion, 9.1 to 9.5 move for approval. We did those, and then discussion 9.6, 9.7.
Right.
So you don't have to read anything.
I'm sorry.
You're not saying
Just
like
to say
reading them. We're just
reading backwards has a suggestion.
I think that there just may be some items of particular. Once again, I don't want to prioritize items. They're all important, right? But you know, there may be some items that it would behoove the board to read them. They might be of a particular importance, a particular, something that wouldn't want to be noted, something for, we throw the word around a lot for the sake of transparency to make sure that the item is completely read. We may, obviously, we probably would want to determine what they may be, but I think from time to time, I think probably 95+% of the time, what we're talking about is completely appropriate, but there may be some resolutions.
Further discussion.
Yeah, like in a few months when you're, approving a new superintendent, you might want to read that one, just
Certainly
saying.
we would do that.
Yeah, that's the significance of the kind of vote I'm talking about, not that one in particular, just an example.
Sure.
Yeah.
Ms. Parlamas.
And just to confirm, this would be for the regular meeting as well.
The regular meeting as well.
Okay.
And executive session?
Well, did you say executive?
Yeah, does she have to read all the personnel things, or can she just say?
No, I'm just going to do the same.
Yeah. So the answer is yes.
Okay. Traditionally, we have read.
Yes.
At regular meetings, because for example, at a regular meeting, often people are there to see themselves, they come, they hear themselves, they hear their names, some of those things, maybe appointments, for example, in personnel. Maybe not necessarily all the spring coaches, right? But like new hires, some people come, someone's being appointed as someone's getting a promotion, someone's this. That's a point of pride for many people. So to hear that read and voted upon by the board is probably appropriate.
Okay, so we can deal with those as they come up. Mrs. Beal.
Can we say if the person is present?
Well, they may be virtual.
I'm present. I mean, whether they're sitting here or whether they're
in person,
if they are present.
That we.
Yeah, I think it is a nice gesture,
Absolutely.
but if they're present.
I agree.
Sometimes I don't know who that person is. So
sometimes
just point it out.
But if the superintendent were to point it out to us. So it's excuse me, Ms. Tellery.
Sorry, I just have a question. So there's no issue doing it this way for video recording, right? So if a public member is watching, they're not hearing what the agenda item actually is. There's no issue with that.
Except that the agenda is posted and they would be able to reference it.
And it's actually on the screen.
And it's on the screen. so they can read it on the screen. Yes, Mrs. Beal.
But also board meetings are not required to be recorded. It's a courtesy.
Oh,
Okay.
very interesting. Thank you for that comment.
We're still doing it.
I had to. I did. I thought it was not part of the open public.
No, I'm
trying to forget. That conversation you don't have. All right. Well, it sounds like we're pretty much in agreement. Do we want to do a straw poll?
No.
No, we're just going to be in agreement. Okay. So we're going to move to the straw poll. I know. We'll forget we did it. All of us. The second public comment part of our meeting. I'm sorry, the public like to comment on any item at this time. I'm sorry.
We're still in new.
Still in new. Oh, we forgot your PR. Wait, go ahead. New business.
I just have two things. So the 2023 to 24 calendar, I thought we approved, right?
No.
It's
District calendar?
yeah, I thought we approved it. We had it. Oh,
Just our meeting calendar.
See, we talked about it. I swear we talked about it.
Yes.
Anyway, go ahead.
okay. When are we going to be discussing that? Because so many districts have it up. People want to plan vacations. I've been asked like, when is the district's calendar going to be up for next year?
Every February, we've always done it in February.
Okay, I swear we saw it somewhere. My bad. And secondly, this is School Board Appreciation Month. So there is a sample resolution. You might have seen it, President Gilman on NJSBA. Is that something that we have ever done? I thought we did it at least 1 year in the last 5 years.
I think we did it 1 year.
Read the resolution.
Yeah, doing a resolution about.
Now we will just reference it.
Yeah.
No,
yeah. Aren't we great? I would be more than willing to read that at the regular meeting on the 24th.
I mean, I would, I think we should put it on the agenda. I think it should be a resolution.
Sure. Is there a?
What is this?
For this unpaid gig we have.
To be appreciated.
I need no appreciation. A service pleasure.
Appreciations. I appreciate your thought. I don't think it would be that
appreciate each other.
Unusual to do.
Okay, well, yes, it is in the school board notes. We all get the school board notes.
Yes, there's a sample. You just copy and paste it. Yep, I can send it to you.
You just send it to me.
Just
I'll
send
put
it.
it in. I'll put it for work discussion and then we could put it on. the
I'll take a
agenda.
look on
That's fine.
school board notes, see if I still
Yep,
have
not a
that.
problem.
Now we'll move to public comment on any item. Anybody in the audience care to make a statement on any item? Mr. Hadd.
I appreciate you. And thank you for not recording meetings for the last 10 years before this. I appreciate that.
You know, but thank you. Thank you. Mrs. Conway, is there anybody on our Zoom who would like to make a comment?
No, President Gilman, there are no commenters.
Wow. Well, then I'm going to ask for
Turn.
Second.
and we already have our second, and thank you very much. And thank you everybody for being so cooperative with this evening.